Hi, Matt with etrailer. If you have a 2023 Nissan Rogue and you're looking for something that's not going to take up very much space in your garage and will work with a lot of different types of bikes, then the Benton Shifts and Grins bike rack is going to be a great option for you. So let's check it out. And really working with it is pretty easy. So all I have to do is pull a pin on the side and push on that shank, and it'll kind of unfold from itself. And getting into your receiver isn't too bad. So I just got to lift up a little bit. And since the Rogue isn't too high off from the ground, this isn't too bad of a transition, even though this is a little bit heavier. We're also going to have an alignment collar to help make this process just a little bit easier. You notice it's already hitting this tab here, and I already lined up my hole from earlier, but I can just simply loosen up this knob here if I already didn't line this up, and I can adjust this if need be. Now I went ahead and threw my bike on and tightened that rack completely down, just kind of show you what it's going to look like back here. And I gotta say, this is looking pretty good, because compared to most bike racks out there, when you throw a bike back here, you're gonna run into a lot of clearance issues, especially with this back window. You really gotta consider what size frame bike you have. With this, I don't have to worry about it as much, because our rack is sitting a little bit away from a vehicle. And with these 15-inch handlebars, you can tell we have a lot of clearance right here. Even if I'm on some really bumpy spots, this is moving around a lot. I'm not close to making contact with my vehicle. Now, if I did have a smaller frame bike and it dropped a little bit, I'd be a little bit closer, and I might want to be a little bit more mindful of those bumpy roads. But for the most part, this is fitting on here really nice. This won't only be great for a lot of different frames of bikes, but also different types of bikes, whether that comes to frame styles and weight capacities. And this is going to be all at a very economic price range too. That's why I really like this rack. Now for that weight capacity, that's going to be at 55 pounds per bike, and we're going to be able to hold 2 of them. So you'll be able to handle your lighter e-bikes. But that's really not going to reflect the tilt away too much. We're going to have a button on the very back of this. Makes it really easy to use. And if I tilt that back, I have access to my hatch. And this is good if maybe you're going shopping and you throw your groceries back here. We won't have an issue with that, and I can easily sit in here, grab my helmet if I want to get ready for my ride, and tie my shoes. And once I'm all ready, I can come back over here, close this up, and put this back into the seated position just by pushing on the rack till it clicks back into place. But we're going to take a closer look at our rack. I'm going to take off my bike. So where I like to start is with these straps. You're going to have 1 per tire. They're going to have some rubber padding on them so they don't scuff anything up. Just tuck that away. And if we come over here, do the same on this side. These are also on some cradles that do have the ability to move in and out to accommodate a wider range of wheelbases. And then at the very top, we can remove this ratcheting hook. Now when you do this, just make sure you grab your frame and remove it this way. You can actually detach this completely, so if it's getting in your way, you can just set it aside. What I also like about this design is you don't have the option of not only mounting to your tire, but you can actually shift that over and mount to your frame. That's going to be in the case if you have any fenders on your bike, you can work with it. But if you have a nicer bike with a nicer paint job or alternative frame or carbon frame bikes, you can just move it back to the tire instead. But from here, we can just lift up and then take it out for a ride. Once you're at your destination, you can actually kind of clean up now. So the biggest thing is just make sure you don't forget your hook, because that's kind of important. And what we're going to do here is just push that in. And what I like to do is, since this is pretty easy to move, I'll even use one of these straps to kind of hold it in place. Just gives me a little bit more peace of mind. And just I like to cinch this other one up, just so it looks a little bit neater. But we can get a few measurements. The first one I'm going to get is going to be our ground clearance. And right now we're sitting at about 17.5 inches, which is really good. Like I said earlier, our Rogue is sitting a little bit lower, but since we have a rise to our shank, we're going to be a little bit higher, so we don't have to worry about making contact with the ground. Now we are sitting out kind of far, like I said earlier, and that is going to be just a little bit over 29 inches. So compared to some other racks, that's actually pretty standard. And if you want to save more space, you can. And that's going to be more so if you don't have any bikes on here. And what we're going to do is press that button. When we press it, we can push up. It's going to fold up like this. And what's nice is A lot of racks, sometimes they'll make contact with your back bumper. There's plenty of space back here where it won't, but now it's only going to be sitting at about 15 inches, saving you a lot of room. Within this folded up position, it's not going to block too much. So really the biggest thing you're going to notice is it's going to catch a lot in your backup camera. It'll still probably be usable, just something to consider when you are backing up. But your license plate, your taillights, and back window won't be obstructed. Now this is a good point to also mention. You can actually get a 2-bike add-on. Right back here, you can actually see where it's sliding on. Just kind of rubbed off some of the paint here, just a tad bit. Still looks pretty good. And what I like about that is it's a super easy installation. You're just gonna slide it on the back, tighten the hand knob, and you're ready to go. What you gotta think about though is how it's gonna interact back here. Because you're gonna be adding a lot more height to the back of your carrier, so you're gonna block more things on the back of your vehicle, and especially when it is fully extended. So just something to consider. And the way this is gonna install, like I showed you earlier, we're just gonna have a 2-inch shank that goes into a 2-inch hitch receiver. We're gonna have that alignment collar to help us out, lining up those holes. But what I didn't show you is we do have this anti-rattle bolt that goes through. And what's nice about this is the way it's shaped is it's gonna hold itself in place. So when you're ratcheting it from the other side, you don't have to worry about holding the other side in place. In my opinion, I think this is a great option for the Rogue we have today. You can get a lot of different variations of bikes back here, and they're gonna work really nicely with the Rogue, which isn't very common with a lot of hitch bike racks. Now another one that is gonna work nicely with the Rogue is gonna be the Kuat NB 2.0 base bike rack. And I think that's a pretty good comparison between these two. The biggest difference is just gonna be price, where the Kuat is gonna be a lot more premium. And what you get out of that is just more ease of use, and it's gonna look a little bit nicer in the back of your vehicle. The biggest thing to note with that is that anti-rattle device. Like you notice with this one, you're gonna need some tools to tighten that down each time. With that one, it's just gonna be a hand knob on the very back of it, making it pretty easy. But I think this one does play a little bit nicer on the back of the Rogue. We're gonna get a little bit more clearance, so it's gonna allow you to get a little bit different variations of bikes that will work really nicely back here. But again, this was just a look at the Benton Shifts and Grins bike rack on the back of our 2023 Nissan Rogue. I'm Matt, thanks for watching.